on points. In the first on point, we look at how India has exposed the Pakistan-China-Turkey nexus in Operation Sindoor. In the second on point, we look at how Russia has become the first country to officially recognize Taliban government in Afghanistan. In the third on point, we look at how a row has erupted over the Congress distributing sanitary pads in Bihar with Rahul Gandhi's picture on the packet for the election campaign. Now headlines. S. Jaishankar to embark on a 3-day visit to China from July 13th. External Affairs Minister to attend a SCO Foreign Ministers meet in Tianjin. Maharashtra CM Devendra Fadnavis condemns MNS Slapgate, promises strict action against culprits. Crackdown on illegal arms and ammunition in Manipur, more than 203 weapons recovered from hill districts. The accused in Praveen Nettaru murder case arrested from Kannur International Airport while returning from Qatar. Allahabad High Court rejects Hindu side's plea on Shahi Eidgah, declines to declare the mosque a disputed structure. Karnataka CM Siddaramaiah defends the formation of expert panel to probe link between COVID-19 vaccine and sudden heart-related deaths. Police arrest 5 for attacking Bengal Minister Siddiqullah Chaudhry's convoy. Asta Punia becomes first woman fighter pilot of the Indian Navy. China urges India to exercise caution on Tibet-related matters. Hope in New Delhi recognizes the anti-China separatist nature of the Dalai Lama. The Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh, on Friday exposed the Beijing-Islamabad nexus when he said that China provided all possible support to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. He said that 81% of military hardware that the Pakistani army receives is of Chinese origin. Speaking at the event, New Age Military Technologies, he also made other big revelations in relation to Operation Sindoor.
So few lessons that I thought I must flag as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Firstly, one border, two adversaries. So we saw Pakistan one side, but adversaries were two, and if I would say actually 4 or 3 actually. So Pakistan was the front face. We had China providing all possible support, and it's no surprise because if you were to look at statistics, in the last 5 years, 81% of the military hardware that Pakistan is getting is all Chinese, 81% of that. So it's no surprise.
So the Deputy Army Chief emphasized the strategic messaging and integration of technology and human intelligence in target selection and planning during Operation Sindoor.
Operation Sindoor was concerned, the planning and selection of targets was based on a lot of data that was collected, using technology and I would say human intelligence. So a total of 21 targets were actually sort of identified, out of which 9 targets we thought would be prudent to engage. When we looked at those 9 targets, and it was not that the 9 targets that we decided upon was a decision which did not change. Till the last day, the targets, there was eye on the targets that were there, and we kept monitoring the locations. It was only on the final day or the final hour that the decision was taken that these 9 targets would be engaged.
General Singh also stressed that the war is easy to initiate, but it is very difficult to control.
We saw various, or we are seeing various conflicts playing out. So an important consideration was that we should always be on top of the escalation ladder. When we reach a political military objective, we should try and put a stop to it. So a lot of naysayers say, why did we stop now? So war is easy to initiate, but it's very difficult to control. So I would say that was a very masterly stroke that was played to stop the war at an appropriate time. And this time, when the target engagement started, we controlled the escalation. It was only terrorist targets. We would like to put an end to it. However, Pakistani side decided that no, they wanted to, come equal. They engaged our military targets. So in step 2 of the escalation, a very strong message was sent by engaging their military targets in a manner.
He also emphasized the need for India to prepare for 5th generation warfare, warning that the future conflict could involve a computer nerd, maybe perhaps sitting in one part of the country and controlling the entire thing.
There is an added importance to kinetic, non-contact and long-range precision. There is added importance that is playing out in the battlefield, non-contact, non-kinetic, that is your cyber operations, information warfare, that they are equally important going ahead. And this is, if I was to say, it's the 5th generation sort of warfare which is there. So the question arises, are the future wars going to be 5th generation type of wars that will be fought? That is a computer nerd, maybe perhaps sitting in one part of the country and controlling the entire thing. Will it happen that way? The answer, in my understanding, is a big no, at least in the Indian context.
So a number of very important points raised by General Singh. I am in this issue joined by Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, former DGOM and GOC 15 Corps. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me. Air Marshal VPS Rana, thank you, sir. And Captain Alok Bansal, Director India Foundation. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining me. Let me straight away go to General Bhatt. Sir, my question to you is, he says that it was not Pakistan. It was China, Turkey and Pakistan that were involved in Operation Sindoor. So, decode it for us. What does it mean for India? Does it mean that globally the wars have become geolocated but global in nature?
Oh yes. So the first and foremost, of course, in India we were talking of two and a half front war or a single front war. But now we have to be very clear that any single front would be supported by one country, definitely, and maybe more countries, as has happened in this short period of Sindu. We knew that cooperation and collusivity between China was a reality which has been emerging the last so many years. But what it has manifested now is into much more support in terms of weapon systems, much more support in the domain of space, which I'm very sure there was. Every asset which China had, I think, was available to Pakistan, be it ISR, be it SAT communication, or be it PNT. So the new reality is a single front with multiple adversaries in that, with a lead being with someone like Pakistan, but supported by, it's more of a client state supported by China, which calls the shots. And its strategic aim of China is to keep us engaged with these small irritants, these neighbors around us. That is not only Pakistan, but other neighbors also, whom they keep instigating, be it Bangladesh, once upon a time Maldives or Sri Lanka, and they put in their efforts even in Nepal. So this is the new dimension where we have to be prepared to fight, keeping in mind these challenges which armed forces have?
Air Marshal Rana, my second question to you is, he also said that 81% of the weapons in Pakistan are from the Chinese inventory, and perhaps the entire 4-day where Operation Sindoor had engaged the terrorist camps in Pakistan, China was testing its inventory.
Absolutely, Karthikeya. I think that was for everybody. We discussed it earlier as well. Pakistan is being treated by China as one of their another extended state. The way they claim for Taiwan, I'm sure now they have started behaving the same for Pakistan as well. All of us know that all the weaponry that was being used, all the aircrafts, all the missile systems, all the surface to air, air to air, all missile systems were that of the Chinese origin. And if you see in 65 and 71 wars, it was mostly the US weapons. And that time when Pakistan went on the back foot, it was the US weapons. US felt hurt. This time it was the Chinese weapon. Pakistan didn't deliver well on many counts, and it is the China's turn to be hurt. They have been utilizing the Pakistan as their own laboratory, like rightly Deputy Chief stated. Every single weapon that most of these weapons are actually tested first time. PL-15 was tested first time. Okay, the JF-17 also saw the action first time. J-10 saw it first time. So most of their weapons that they have used saw this for the first time, and I'm sure they were looking at it, that how does it work, what does it work, what does not work, and I'm sure that they are utilizing all these data now to refine whatever inadequacies or deficiencies they would have found in their own weapon systems. In coming years, it is going to be even more. Surprising is that if you see their 5th generation fighter, FC-31 has been offered for the operational flying to the Pakistan pilots. It's unheard of that the platform, which is not even operationalized in their own country, it is under the development, and it is still 5-10 years away, and it is being offered for test flying to Pakistan. So in coming times, it's not only 81, come another 5 years, probably you will have more than 90-95% of the weapons of all China. And it is for the China, for their trade across the globe, that they want to prove their weaponry in a best possible manner. And this is the only way, because I don't see India-China going to war, because I don't think that will happen in near future. So this is the only way for China to actually test their weapon systems. And one thing is, I'm sure they are not very happy with what the result is.
Okay.
Another point is that they are straight away would be going to the drawing board, whether be it the tactics, be it the refinement of the technology. And I'm sure this is going to be a challenge for India in future as well.
Okay. Captain Bansal, your thoughts on the two important statements which the General made. One, he said even the DGMO conversation was leaked. Second, he said the Chinese were aware of the live Indian vectors. Decode it for our viewers, sir.
See, now this is a very significant factor, because as far as supply of weapons is concerned, it's no big deal. We all knew what last 5 years have been supplied. So now to say it after Op Sindoor is, I think, not very significant. We knew it very well that what China has supplied. We probably didn't know what their capabilities was. And that is where China has successfully tested them. And this is, again, a new norm which has emerged, that most major weapon suppliers or major weapon producers are using it in ongoing conflicts. Many of the Western weapon systems were used in Russia-Ukraine war. China has successfully been able to test J-10C, JF-17, which is of course a collaborative venture, and PL-15, etc. So these have been used, and of course their success or failure is also now evident to them. But what is critical is this information sharing. If information has been shared that our aircraft were in the air and the missiles were coming from so and so directions or something like that, which has been shared by China to Pakistan, which is a live intelligence sharing. That's a very, very significant development. That means Chinese satellites or platforms were tracking Indian platforms and have passed on the information to Pakistan. We need to understand that for a very long time, China's policy vis-a-vis India have been two-pronged. Firstly, China does not want India to join the Western alliance or become an ally of the US. At the same time, China does not want India to be a challenger to China in the global arena. And to meet these twin objectives, what China does is that it doesn't want to directly take on India. It wants India to remain bogged down in South Asia and its neighborhood. And as a result, China's collaboration with all India's neighbors has been significant and has been pursuing it so that India remains confined to South Asia and doesn't emerge as a challenger to China on the global arena. So that's been the case. And now you can see that China and Pakistan collusion has been increasing significantly. Of course, there has been huge support coming also from Turkey. The drones that were used, primarily most of them were Turkish drones, which were actually done. And if we actually look at it, in each and every war that Pakistan has fought with India, there have been some countries which have supported Pakistan. If you look at it, 1971, Pakistan's bulk of its inventory was the Western inventory. The US had supplied it. Both Turkey and Iran were actually part of the Central Treaty Organization, of which Pakistan was a part. Pakistan was provided military support both in 65 as well as 71 by Iran. So that factor we need to understand. And in today's conflict, each belligerent is provided supplies by other countries which are favorably disposed towards them. And you are seeing that in Russia-Ukraine war. You will continue to see that. So that factor, any armed force will have to take into account. But intelligence sharing, if things are being shared, if DGMO tops are being shared, all these things are happening, then there are serious concerns which we need to know. Please remember, when Kargil happened, we had shared Musharraf's talk with his DGMO, which we had actually done it, which to my mind was not a very sensible thing to do, because that probably plugged that source which we were actually trying to do that, get that input from. So that technical capability which we had, I think Pakistanis were prevented from using it again because they knew their vulnerability. So this intelligence sharing is a very, very significant factor, and I think that we'll have to take into account if we have to, in future for any conflict.
Absolutely. Let me take this question to General Bhatt. Sir, when you say that our live vectors were being shared, what does it mean to our viewers? Live vectors being shared.
So what are the live vectors? To start with, aircrafts, missiles, and maybe drones. All of these information of whatever China could monitor was being shared with Pakistan. That's what I think the Deputy Chief meant. And as you see, and here I'm talking to you from the domain of space, the number of satellites today China has and the capability China has of ISR, all these satellites have been primarily made for its first chain of islands and second chain of islands. But by default, the way these satellites move, they can easily cover the whole Indian space as well as the Pakistani space. So they don't have to even switch satellites or move satellites. Satellites in the natural path, which are meant for the area of interest, also cover the entire area of the Indo-Pakistan border. And any movement, any activity going on there, they have definitely shared it. In fact, the Pakistani Prime Minister has mentioned there what Captain Bansal was also mentioning, that live intelligence sharing did take place. The Prime Minister of Pakistan has owned it up while he has visited one of the countries, and we would know it for a fact.
But there is also another issue, I think, which requires Air Marshal VPS Rana's attention. So that is fifth generation aircraft platform. If I may ask this bluntly to you, sir, is this the gap we have in our preparedness, sir?
Yes, we do have. There's a tremendous gap to have in today's context. There's no denying about it. China is already has J20 in a very, very large number, and by 2030 they are going to be close to 1,000 aircrafts. I mean, with anybody's estimates. So, and when we are talking about the fifth generation aircraft, we are talking about 2000 or MCA or any other. We're not before 2035. Then there is a development, like earlier I said, of J35, which is basically being offered to J20 is, as of now, is not being offered to Pakistan, but J35 is. So when you see this gap vis-a-vis China, it's a huge gap that we have. Obviously, we need to plug it, and we need to plug it fast. The second one, as far as the Pakistan is concerned, China is ramping up the J35 development, and as per some estimates, by 2030 it is going to be available with Pakistan in its operational capacity. So if that be so, then we are looking at a large gap. But putting that aside, it is not always the aircraft. It is there are other things. So we need not to be wary about that. If they have fifth generation aircraft, then they will have all the say. There are tactics, there are trainings, there are other methodology, and there's a whole lot of asymmetry that has creeped in today. In terms of warfare, the warfare has changed its in entirety. Like even if in Op Sindoor, you see there were none of the aircrafts that went across. It is other than the drones. There's no other thing. So it is all standoff weapons that played their part from both sides. The drones played their part from both sides. So while it is easy to say that if J35 comes or J20 comes, they will have all the edge. I don't think so, because there are other vectors and there are other tactics involved.
But he did speak about.
Nevertheless, this gap exists and it is for real, and we need to plug it.
Yes, we need to plug it. And there's one more thing, it just stayed in me. He also said, Captain Bansal, that we need to prepare our population centers. No one has paid attention to that sentence, which does it mean that it's not going to be the sanitized war watched on TV? It's going to come to the deeper parts of India. Did he mean that, sir?
We have seen how the way Israel-Iran war has gone. Okay. So wars, no plans remain once the first bullet has been fired. So we have to be prepared. An Indian public for too long has not faced a real war. Even Kargil and Sindoor did not affect the common man except on the bordering areas, places like Jammu, Rajouri, Poonch, etc., where you saw there were casualties on the border. But the Indian heartland was relatively immune to what was happening. And I think that is where we did try and do some drills as far as air raid warnings, etc. were there, blackout drills were done. Most of us have not seen blackouts or blackout drills since 71. So there are issues which we need to be ready. What he was giving was a fair warning that next war may not remain confined to military targets alone. You may see attacks on population centers, and as it is a country like Pakistan, which talks of first use, you have to be prepared in any case for any eventuality. And in that sort of a scenario, public has to be well versed as to how to deal with future conflicts. They have to be mentally prepared for that sort of an eventuality. We don't have shelters, we don't have provisions for shelters, we don't have processes, we don't have drills as far as air raids, warnings, etc. are concerned. I think we need a lot to learn from Israel. We should have seen the way Israelis have conducted, dealt with as far as the last war was concerned. The warnings, the way people moved into shelters, despite numerous missiles hitting Israeli, the casualties in Israel were fairly low, and that is because the population is well versed how to react when a threat like that emanates.
Absolutely. I thank you, all of you. I've really run short of time for this, but I think the big picture is very clear. The next time if there is an engagement, it might be a completely different ball game, and everyone needs to understand that it was just not Pakistan which India took on. India took on Pakistan, China and Turkey together and came out with flying colors. And again, it might have been geolocated, but there were other powers which were trying to take on India. So the war has become complex. It has become different from what you have seen on TV, and it might become bigger as the war can take place in areas where people don't expect the bombs to fall. So this was all on point one. In the second on point, we look at how Russia has recognized the Taliban government in Afghanistan after a short break.
की होल्डर का एक तेरे लिए मंगाओ